What would you do if I told you there were loads of hot, single, deep-pocketed leads in your area, and all you have to do is swipe right or swipe left on them? That's what I built for GoHighLevel. So this is actually pulling data from HighLevel into this app, which allows us to swipe right or swipe left. So as you see, God, these birds are loud. Okay, so you can swipe left to skip this action or swipe right to complete it. And what we can do here is we can see this conversation. We can look at things like phone calls. We can see the transcript and the summary if there was one. And we can change the status of this lead. So if we want to really quickly review the pipeline, we could say, okay, this is actually not like a consultation taken, but this is just a valid lead. But in this case, we have taken the consultation, and let's say, yeah, you know what? I've reviewed this and I like the status that we have, and I'm not gonna send them another text, so I'll just swipe right, and it's gonna, in the background, it's gonna review that and mark it as reviewed, and then we'll move on to the next lead. How sick is this? And we can also reschedule. So I'll just show you. If we go to our Actions tab, this is on Streamlined, and let's go back to that location, so Atomic Reps. And we can see all of our actions that we have yet to do. So we have our high quality open deals. So that's what we were just looking at. We have unread messages, which are obviously messages that are unread. And then we have overdue tasks. We actually have 1.6 thousand overdue tasks. So let's take a look at those. So let's click overdue tasks. It'll give us a little bit of a sample. We'll just hit click get started, and it'll show us this task. So we can see actually the title of the task. We can see when it was due, and then we can actually see the summary that the AI created for this task. And so if we scroll down, we see again our status, all this stuff. And if we want, we can swipe right to check this off. This will actually mark it as completed in the CRM, or if we skip it, it'll just be basically hidden until the task is edited or something and we want to bring it back up to the surface. Or of course, we can reschedule this task in the CRM so that we can do it later. Now this is super sick, and yeah, I built this all, I mean, that's basically the pitch, all right? This is really sick if you have clients who need to be able to do like, to be able to look at their leads and tell you like, okay, what actually happened with this lead? Can you please add like a disposition for what status they're in? Or can you review your unread messages? I mean, this client, as you can see, has 2,500 unread messages, 15 or 1,600 overdue tasks. So yeah, a lot of people actually need something like this, and this is a really convenient way, mobile, because I know clients never use their fucking computer. A lot of salespeople like a phone too, and this is just a really easy way to do it. There's also going to be like a way, I need to make it pop, but like a button that says like use AI, and it'll be an agent, and you'll type like, they came in for an inspection, and you know, we ended up like booking them or something. And then the AI would go, okay, great, I've updated their status, I've updated their value, I've done this, do you want to send this message? And it'll type out a message. So it'll be an agent. It's going to be sick. It's going to be badass. But that's the pitch. I'm going to get into the technical stuff of this now. And yeah, if you want to get this app, click the link below. I'll put a link for my app where you can talk with me and see how this might be able to help your agency. I have other videos explaining how this is just an insane tool for HighLevel. It's not just this. It's like reporting and stuff, all the sales-oriented stuff. But yeah, let's get into the technicals of how this actually works. Okay, so I know you're probably going to tune out now, but if you're a regular viewer of my channel, a lot of you guys like building stuff. So I'm going to show you how I did it, all right? This is pretty cool. This is like a Tinder type interface. The thing with Tinder, and actually, maybe I can show you. So this is Monarch. This is my finance app that I use on my phone, and I actually copied kind of this whole idea. Well, obviously, Tinder, I think, kind of pioneered the idea, but I thought Monarch had ripped it off very beautifully. So this is not like, you know, dating. It's not like some kind of fun thing where you're just like mindlessly swiping. It's actually got some utility. So here we can swipe left to kind of skip our review of this purchase, or we can swipe right to mark it as reviewed. And then if we need to, we can scroll through here and update some things about the transaction so that we can categorize it better. Now, I actually realized that I believe they actually just stole it straight from Slack, because if we look at Slack, they have a very, very similar looking interface, which is really funny because I thought it was all Monarch, but I guess they probably stole it from Slack, who stole it from Tinder. But the interesting thing is, as you can see, the previous or the next item in this list is after, it's actually physically behind this card that we're looking at. So we swipe left, immediately we get the next card. That is much harder to pull off on the web. especially because, I mean, basically we would have to fetch like a bunch of cards and then show those and then maybe like prefetch one in the background, and it becomes like, okay, doing this was hard enough, and maybe I'll go this route eventually, but I'm going to show you how it works with my app right now, and then you can kind of understand like why it's pretty difficult. Okay, so here's how it works in my app. So we have this page, which is the action page, and this action page takes a few search parameters. So we have the actor, so this is the person who's actually doing the acting, so to say. So we have either a location or a user for the account. And then we have the action ID. So this is a unique ID that allows us to deduplicate these actions and kind of keep them like organized. And then we have a contact ID. And so the primary key for an action is, well, it also takes a type parameter. So our primary key for these actions is a type plus an action plus a contact. And that combination is unique across the table. So that's how we get them, because each contact can have multiple actions, and yeah, it's kind of, I mean, that's just how I chose to index it. But basically, our action page, we make it, okay, here's the thing. This layout that I built here is extremely, I mean, maybe it's just a skill issue, but it's extremely fucking hard to build this type of interface where this is the overflow. This is the only place that things overflow on this page, is this content area. And we have these buttons at the bottom and this header that kind of is persistent. This is really hard to do. And what you have to do is you have to set this whole page to be a certain height. So as you can see in the code, we have height is a calculation of 100 dynamic view height, because on iOS, the view height includes the little bar at the bottom, which is fucking dumb. So you have to do it dynamic view height minus 65 pixels, which is the height of the header, and then that gives you the height of the screen that we want to use. And then we have a bunch of overflow stuff, because when we swipe here, it used to show like a scroll bar at the bottom, which is really fucking annoying. And then we have our action container. So our action container, this is where the actual magic comes in. Okay, this is vibe coded, this part. I don't even fucking know what this is. But here's how it works. So when we land on this page, we're going to fetch the next URL. So we're going to land on a URL, and basically what this action is going to do is it's going to, why can't I command click? Okay, there we go. It's going to go to this file, and it's going to basically select from our actions table the next action, and it's going to give us the next URL. So it's going to return a string, which is the next URL that we push the user to once they finish the current action. And then once we fetch that next URL, then we actually prefetch that page, so that to make the swap between pages feel faster. So that way, if you go to the next action, it's not like server rendering everything and then you're sitting there waiting. It I mean, it has to process afterwards, but it basically like comes online like really fast. Because like if we mark this as, dude, what the hell? Oh, that does make sense. Hang on. Okay, so if, god damn. So yeah, so if we hit skip on this, then there's a loading sign, but then you can see it instantly pulls up the next page. It's really fast, because we're prefetching that in the background once they land on the current page, which is kind of my workaround to having to have the cards be stacked, because that way you're server-side rendering so much shit just to get the page ready, and then you have to have a system that fetches like the 5th card, you know, prefetches that, and then like how do you manage? It's just a fucking headache, because the CSS is already hard enough. Like I've spent just the swiping animation, I think took me around like 3 hours, like, but at least like half of that has been just fucking poring over the CSS, just like, what the fuck? How do I fix this shit? Because there's so many issues. Everything you do with this type of view breaks something. It's like I would be very scared to go in and edit this, because I know it's going to take me 4 times what it should take, because half, 3/4 is digging around with the CSS. But yeah, so we have a bunch of values here. This is with the motion package. So we're using use motion value from Framer Motion. So Framer Motion is a pretty standard way to animate stuff in React. And we have an X value, which represents how far the user has dragged. That you have to use a use motion value, which is like kind of use state, and you initialize it with 0, and then that kind of, because it's not a number, it's not like you can just pull a number straight out of it, because it's like reactive, I guess. It's different from use state. And then that controls our opacity value and then our rotation as well. And then we have a progress, which is used to show that little, so if I go back here, what the hell? Yeah, so that like progress bar, it's used to show that. And I'm very proud of that, because now you can actually tell when you're on the threshold. If you let go, it would actually take the action. And so that's pretty good. And then we have two separate backgrounds for the blue and the gray when you're swiping right or left respectively. That's left BG opacity. Anything in camel case here you can see is written by the AI. I only write snake case variable names, and so this was vibe coded, but I just didn't feel like changing it. But yeah, so we have, and then we used to have, so we have these buttons down at the bottom. So skip and reviewed, and these can change based on the task or the action. But we pulled out the function from these buttons into this overall container. So this file, action container, is fat as shit. It's kind of unfortunate. I couldn't really figure out a way to easily like break it apart. So it's just a big ass file. I mean, you can see, look how small our scroll bar is. But yeah, so we have these functions that handle the skip action. And so they set our result, which controls, okay, it's a little complicated. I'll try to make it simpler. So basically all we're doing is we're calling a backend function. That's why we have a loading screen on that page after we swipe, because we have to do mutations. We have to update the database, and potentially with like a task in GoHighLevel, we have to go and we have to update that task while the user's sitting there just to make sure it goes well. And I don't know if we just navigated them instantly without awaiting this, if the HTTP connection would just close and it would cancel that mutation. I don't actually know. I mean, if it didn't, then we could pretty easily like skip over that mutation step, but then it causes an action with fetch next because it has to be. Anyways, so yeah, we have our mutation actions here, and these set the set result and set mutating. And then this is kind of where the magic happens with this Tinder interface, is this handle drag end function. So basically you have to do xValue.get, and that gives you the actual value of the, because it's the use motion value thing. And then if our value is less than or equal to the swipe threshold, which is a predetermined number of pixels that I set. So I think it's 35 pixels in this case. If they let go, that's drag end. If they let go and we're below minus 35 pixels, then we're going to skip the action. And if we're above 35 pixels, then we're going to complete that action. And so then that's basically how we know when they've actually let it go. And then we have a shit ton of motion divs wrapped up, and this is where it gets fucking ugly, dude. This is like a mess. So first of all, we have our outer div, and this is, well, technically I guess we have an outer div that wraps everything, but then we have this div, which is the whole thing that moves when I drag my cursor. And so that has active cursor grabbing, so when you click on it, then it shows this cursor. So like that, the little grabbing thing. And then they can't drag it if we are actively mutating. So there's a little, what do you call this thing? Ternary operator. Drag directional lock. This is important because if you don't have it, then it's really fucking finicky, because we're trying to scroll vertically while also being to swipe left and right. Without this, it was a fucking pain in the ass. And then we have our style. So our style, basically X value tells it where to move based on the dragging from framer motion. And then we have our rotation. And so our rotation, I think it was calculated up here, and I'll just reiterate that. So for rotation, we just use like a little map thing. Oh yeah, so for rotate, you pass in the X value that you're basing it off of, and then this is the threshold, and it maps to these values. So basically rotate goes from minus 10 to 10 based on X value between these two numbers. So hopefully that makes sense, but when X value is minus 35, minus swipe threshold, then the rotation would be minus 10 degrees. I'm guessing it's degrees. I think it's degrees. And then, so we have our drag end, so we pass that, and then drag constraints, and this just makes sure that when you drag it, it resets to the default. So like this, see, it kind of snaps back. It's actually not that fast, but yeah, it snaps back. And then we have our inner motion div, and so this is relative. I believe this means that like, it's not, I don't even know what it is, but what I do know is that these are absolute. So we have two of these. This one is for skips. I could make a component out of this, but I can't be bothered. So this is for skipping, and this is for completion. As you can see, we have BG primary on this, and then this one is BG gray 500. And so when we swipe, we can see that this one turns BG gray 500, this one turns BG primary, and it's actually changing the opacity of this based on the event. And then we have this circular progress bar. This is, I think, React Circle Progress. It's an NPN package. And we just pass in our progress, and then that actually shows the exact progress, which is really nice because now you can tell when you're actually about to complete it. Then we have some path values, some colors and stuff, and we have our loader. So the other thing you might notice about this is that the opacity, if we have a result, so the result means when someone swipes all the way right and lets go, we're going to set that result, which is by default null. We're going to set it to either skip if they swipe all the way left, or complete, just the string, if they swipe all the way right. And so that means if the result is skip, then the opacity is going to be 1, and so this is going to be always visible, and we're going to change this X icon, so you can see there's an X icon in the middle of this progress circle. We're going to change that to a loader. So if I skip this, then you can see that changes to a loader. The whole thing becomes fully like visible, and we can actually see the state as it's mutating. Not the best solution. I would kind of prefer if you swipe and it disappeared and then there was a loader behind, but that's harder to do. You have to make the card disappear kind of gracefully. I guess you can make it fade out, but I don't know. This solution was easier, and so I'm just like, I'll think about it later. But yeah, that's these two components. And then we have our card container, which is also wrapped in a motion div, and that's so that we can easily control the opacity. So that if we have a result, then we're going to make it completely opaque. And when it leaves, it goes to opacity 0. I don't actually really understand this, but when it just controls the looks. It just looks good. I mean, yeah, that's really all there is to it. It's just in these two files. I mean, page is pretty obvious, but then and by the way, if you want to know how to do this layout, where you can actually, well, this one's not too big, so it's not going to scroll, but where you can have the scrolling within, good luck. It's fucking painful, dude. As far as I understand, you need to have height, like set your height specifically, because it can't be height full, because then there's no constraint. It needs to be height screen, basically, or whatever part of the screen you want to have it occupy. And then for the card, I mean, the difficulty is we have so many of these different like containers wrapping the actual card. It gets tough, but basically you have height fit, and that ensures that on this page it's not taking up the whole screen because it doesn't need to. So we have height fit, and then we have max height full, and then width full, flex call, overflow hidden is important. And then for the card content, so the header is persistent, this doesn't scroll, but then for the card content, we have overflow auto, px3. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I barely understand it, dude. I've had to fix it like 8 times, and every time I'm just like kind of messing with random classes until I get it to work. It's really, really a pain in the ass. Of course, it's a skill issue. I'll get a comment. It's a skill issue, bro. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's still a fucking pain in the ass. So anyways, that is the video. Hopefully, if you came to this knowing about HighLevel and going, wow, this is sick, hopefully you didn't stay this long. Because now you're going to think I'm a fucking idiot. And hopefully you just go book a call and buy my app. But if you're here because you are into development, hopefully this is helpful. I think this was really kind of a fun project, kind of actually satisfying. Didn't take me as long as I thought it would. And I used this video primarily to kind of learn how to do it. This was like the best video I found on this topic. It's not like the full thing, like I had to figure some stuff out, but it gives you a really, really good start. And yeah, he explains it really well. So anyways, if you're thinking about doing something like this, I would first check out this video and then maybe come back to mine if you want some more advanced stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching YouTube and wasting your life with me. All right.